Caleb Thorne walked slowly up the black stone stairs of the citadel. The sky above glowed red from the volcanoes that surrounded the floating island. Heat rose in waves, making the air heavy and sticky. Caleb's boots scuffed against the stone. Every step made him feel smaller and weaker in a place built for dragons. Dragons of all sizes moved around him, wings stretching wide, tails flicking, claws scraping the stone. Some were young, still learning the arts. Others were huge, ancient, their scales like living armor, their eyes burning with fire. They watched him silently. Caleb felt their eyes like hot metal on his skin. At the top of the stairs, a dragon older than any story stood waiting. Eldros Flame Ward was enormous, his scales bronze and streaked with white like cracked metal. His wings folded behind him, but they were taller than most humans. His eyes were sharp, golden, and full of judgment. He looked at Caleb without speaking. Caleb swallowed. He carried only a small metal case and a worn coat. Nothing else. The dragons laughed softly behind him, their voices low and rumbling like distant thunder. They whispered that humans could never learn the ancient arts. That they were too soft, too small, too weak. "I am Caleb Thorne," he said quietly, but his voice did not shake. "I want to learn the ancient combat arts." The oldest dragon, Eldros, tilted his head and laughed. The sound echoed across the citadel, shaking dust from the walls. "You," he said. "A human? You are small. You are soft. You cannot even breathe fire. And yet, you wish to learn what dragons take a lifetime to master." Caleb did not bow. He did not kneel. He opened his metal case slowly. Inside was a human training blade. The steel was scratched and dull, but it had been with him for years. He held it carefully like it was the most important thing in the world. "I don't need your fire," Caleb said. "I need your rules." Eldros blinked slowly. No dragon had ever spoken like that before. A silence fell over the citadel. Young dragons stopped their practice. Even the wind seemed to wait. "You will stand on the platform," Eldros said finally, his voice low and heavy. "Above the lava lake. You will not move until I say. If you fall, you die. If you survive, maybe you have a chance." Caleb's heart raced. He looked down at the lava below. The molten rock glowed bright orange and red. The heat was intense. Smoke curled around the platform and the smell of sulfur made him gag. He felt fear, a real heavy fear. But he did not step back. He walked to the edge of the platform. His hands were sweaty. His legs shook. Around him, dragons circled and laughed softly. "Begin." Eldros roared. Caleb planted his boots firmly on the stone. The heat burned through the soles. Sweat ran down his face. For the first few seconds he could hardly breathe. His lungs felt tight. His knees bent. He almost slipped. A young dragon swooped close, testing him with a flick of its tail. Caleb stumbled but caught himself. He gritted his teeth. Each moment felt like a year. The lava below seemed alive, as if it wanted to swallow him. The dragons whispered, mocking him. "Weak," they said. "Fragile." Caleb ignored them. He focused only on standing. On refusing to fall. Minutes passed. His legs screamed. His hands burned from gripping the edge of the platform. His chest heaved. The heat made him dizzy. He thought of giving up. He thought of stepping back. But something inside him would not let him. He thought of the humans back on his world. Of their struggles and fights. Of their courage in the face of impossible odds. He thought of proving to the dragons that humans were not weak. That humans could stand where no one believed they could. Slowly, Caleb found a rhythm. He moved his weight carefully. He breathed in then out, counting each second. His mind focused. His body learned to endure. The heat burned less with each moment. The fear became a tool instead of a chain. Finally, Eldros stepped forward, his massive claws hitting the stone. "Enough," he said. "You have survived. Not because you are strong, but because you will not fall. That is the first lesson." The dragons fell silent. Some of them looked surprised. A few even bowed their heads slightly. Caleb breathed heavily. He did not celebrate. He only stood. He had survived. That was enough. For now. Eldros studied him carefully. "You will learn the arts," he said. "But only if you can endure the pain, the fear, and the impossible. Are you ready for what comes next?" Caleb lifted his chin. "I am ready," he said. And the dragons watched, silently wondering if this human could do what no other human had ever done. Caleb Thorne did not sleep that night. He sat by the edge of the citadel, looking at the lava rivers far below. Heat rose from the molten stone like a living thing. Dragons roared and shifted in the distance, their wings beating the air. Every sound reminded him that he was small, human, fragile. But he refused to feel afraid. At dawn, Eldro's flame ward appeared. The old dragon's eyes burned with golden light, and smoke drifted from his nostrils. "Today you will learn the second trial," Eldros said. "The trial of fire and breath. This is where most fail. Are you ready?" Caleb nodded. He tightened the straps of his coat and gripped his training blade. "I am ready," he said. Eldros led him to a wide platform above the largest lava pit. Flames licked the edges of the stone, and smoke stung Caleb's eyes. The air shimmered with heat. Around the platform, young dragons practiced their movements, breathing fire in precise bursts, spinning, striking invisible targets, bending the air like it was water. "First," Eldros said, "you must learn the breath. The fire begins with control, and control begins with the lungs. Copy my rhythm." The dragon exhaled slowly, a soft golden flame curling from his jaws. His chest rose and fell like a mountain wave. Caleb inhaled, then exhaled, trying to match the rhythm. He coughed. The smoke burned his throat. His chest hurt. His lungs felt weak. Again, Eldros said. Caleb tried again, counting silently in his mind. 1, 2, 3, inhale, exhale, pause, inhale, exhale. The rhythm wavered, his arms shook, but he kept trying. Dragons whispered behind him, laughing softly. "He cannot do it," one said. "Humans never can." Caleb's face burned with sweat and heat. He wanted to scream, to run, to collapse. But he remembered the platform above the lava, the way he had stood without falling. He could not give up. He would not give up. Hours passed. Caleb fell to his knees again and again. He vomited, gasped for air, and sometimes thought he would pass out. But slowly his breathing became steady. He began to feel the rhythm of the air. Not the fire outside, but the fire inside him, the energy moving through his body. "Good," Eldros said finally, his massive head lowering to eye level with Caleb. "You are learning the breath. But the trial is not over. Now comes the fire." Caleb frowned. He had no fire. Humans could not breathe fire. That was the truth. But Eldros' lesson was not about actual fire. It was about focus, about control, about shaping energy into power. Caleb had learned to control his own body. Now he had to control the battlefield. "Strike the targets," Eldros said, pointing to floating stones above the lava. "Your mind is the fire. Your body is the flame. Hit them with precision. Move like the wind. Flow like water. Strike like lightning." Caleb gripped his training blade and leapt forward. He swung, missed, stumbled, and nearly fell into the lava. Flames roared around him. He breathed deeply, centering himself. Then, slowly he struck the first stone. Cracked. He hit the second, the third. His movements became smoother. Faster. Each strike flowed into the next as if he were dancing with the heat itself. The dragons watched, silent. Whispers passed among them. "He moves differently," one said. "Not like a dragon. Not like a human, something else." Caleb felt the heat not as danger but as a challenge. Each moment tested him. Each step burned. Each strike demanded focus. But he adapted. He learned how to use his body, his mind, and his will as a weapon. Not fire, not claws, not wings, just human determination sharpened to perfection. By midday, Caleb stood on the platform, dripping with sweat, lungs burning, muscles screaming. Yet he smiled. He had survived the trial. He had learned the rhythm of breath and the control of energy. The dragons could not believe it. An ordinary human had endured what many dragon apprentices failed to master. Eldros lowered his massive head again, smoke curling from his nostrils. "You have done well," he said. "Few dragons could survive this long. You have learned more than most humans, or dragons, ever could. But this is only the beginning. The real trial comes when you face combat. Only then will we see if the fire in your heart is strong enough to become a warrior." Caleb nodded. He felt tired, weak, but also stronger than ever. He had faced fire and survived. He had learned breath, control, and focus. The dragon's laughter no longer hurt him. Their whispers no longer scared him. He knew he had something they did not expect, a human will that refused to break. As he walked back to his small quarters on the citadel, Caleb looked up at the sky, where dragons soared in practice. He could not breathe fire. He had no wings. He had no scales. But he had learned to bend the impossible to his will. And tomorrow he would learn to fight. For the first time, the dragons wondered if this human might change everything. The next morning, Caleb Thorne stood in the circle of stone. The platform was wide, smooth, and glowing faintly from the heat of the lava below. Around him, dragons circled high in the sky, wings beating like storms. Their eyes followed every movement. Some were curious, some skeptical. Some were already beginning to fear what they were about to see. Eldros Flameward stepped forward, massive and terrifying. His claws dug into the stone, leaving deep marks. Smoke drifted from his nostrils as he stared down at Caleb. "Today you fight," he said. "No weapons. No armor. Only your body, your mind, and your courage. Survive, and maybe you will learn what it truly means to be a warrior." Caleb's heart raced, but he did not step back. He had survived the trials of fire and breath. He had endured the impossible. Now it was time to prove he could fight. He gripped his training blade, though Eldros did not use one. Eldros moved first. He struck like a falling mountain. His claws slashed through the air, faster than Caleb had ever imagined. Heat and wind pushed Caleb back. He rolled, narrowly avoiding the strike. The force shook the ground and small rocks tumbled into the lava. Caleb staggered to his feet. His body ached, his muscles screamed, but his mind was sharp. He studied Eldros carefully, watching every movement, every twitch of muscle, every flick of the tail. Then he moved. Not like a human normally would. Not like a dragon either. He flowed, ducking, spinning, striking. The first strike he attempted missed. Eldros blocked with a claw, sending Caleb stumbling backward. Heat licked at his back. The dragons watching murmured in surprise. They had never seen a human move like this. "Fragile," one whispered. "Impossible," said another. Caleb's eyes narrowed. He could not match Eldros in size, strength, or fire. But he had learned something dragons had forgotten: patience, timing, and adaptation. He could read the rhythm of his opponent. He could predict the next movement. He could strike where no one expected. Another swing of Eldros' claw came at him. Caleb dropped low, rolled under the swing, and came up behind the dragon's leg. He jabbed with his blade, striking the stone so close to Eldros' claw that sparks flew. The old dragon hissed in surprise. Caleb had landed a strike, not on the dragon but in the perfect position. The fight continued. Eldros struck, Caleb dodged. Eldros clawed, Caleb spun. Each moment was faster than the last. Sweat dripped from Caleb's face, his arms and legs burned, and yet he moved with a strange calm. He was not fighting with strength. He was fighting with mind, focus, and human determination. The dragons watched in silence. They had trained for centuries. They had mastered fire, air, and motion. They were strong, nearly invincible. And yet, this human, this small, fragile human, was holding his own. He flowed like water, striking like lightning, never standing still, never showing fear. Eldros roared, slamming his tail down. The force cracked the stone beneath Caleb's feet. He stumbled but recovered, leaping into the air and landing on the edge of the platform. He swung his blade in a wide arc. Sparks flew as it cut through air, narrowly missing Eldros' claw. "Impressive," Eldros said, his voice a growl. "Most humans would have fallen by now." Caleb's chest heaved. He wiped sweat from his eyes and nodded. "I am not most humans," he said, voice firm. Another attack came, faster, stronger. Caleb ducked, rolled, and used his own momentum to push off the platform, launching himself toward Eldros' side. He landed on one knee, struck the stone, and the vibration sent Eldros stumbling back slightly. The dragons whispered in astonishment. Caleb realized something in that moment. He did not need to be stronger. He did not need fire or claws. He needed strategy, speed, focus, and courage. He needed the human mind, quick, clever, and unpredictable. That was his advantage. That was what dragons could not teach him. Finally, Eldros raised a claw and stopped. The battle was over, not because Caleb had defeated him, but because Eldros recognized the truth. The human had learned the rhythm of combat. He had survived blows that would have crushed others. He had struck with timing and precision that rivaled dragons. Caleb stood, breathing heavily, his blade in hand, and looked at Eldros. "I still have much to learn," he said. "You have learned more than you think," Eldros replied, smoke curling from his nostrils. "You have learned what even some dragons cannot. You are not just a human. You are something else. Perhaps a warrior." The young dragons on the platform whispered excitedly. Some of them bowed their heads. Others looked in shock. One dragon muttered, "He moves like a dragon, better than some dragons." Caleb felt a strange pride. Not arrogance. Pride in the fact that he had survived. Pride that humans could be more than what dragons believed. Pride that determination, focus, and courage could overcome even fear, heat, and impossible odds. Eldros stepped back. "Tomorrow the true test begins," he said. "Not against me but against the world. You will learn that combat is not only about skill, but about adapting, surviving, and leading. Only then will you understand what it truly means to be a dragon warrior, human or not. Caleb nodded. He felt pain in every muscle, but he also felt alive. He had survived, he had learned, and he had proven something no one had believed possible. Humans could stand among dragons. Humans could fight like dragons. Humans could endure. And as he watched the lava glow beneath the platform, Caleb realized that this was only the beginning. The world outside awaited, and he would face it not with fear, but with the strength of the human heart, sharpened into a weapon stronger than fire itself. The dragons watched him silently, some in awe, some in disbelief. And for the first time, a human had earned their respect, not by size, not by fire, not by claws, but by courage, intelligence, and unbreakable will. Caleb Thorne was training at dawn when the sky tore open. A black rift appeared, twisting light and air into shadows that burned with cold fire. Dragons froze mid-flight. The wind howled like a living thing. Caleb felt the hairs on his arms stand on end. "They have come," Eldros Flameward growled. His massive claws dug into the stone platform. Smoke drifted from his nostrils. The Void Reavers. Caleb's heart raced. He had heard stories of these creatures. They were not like any enemy dragons had ever fought. They fed on heat and energy. Fire made them stronger. Wings could not carry a dragon fast enough. Only skill, speed, and cunning could stop them. The first Reaver fell through the rift. Its body was black and smooth like melted metal, but it glowed with sharp red lines that moved like lightning. Its eyes were nothing, just emptiness. It landed on the platform, and the heat of its presence made the stone beneath Caleb's boots sweat. Dragons roared and struck. Flames licked the Reaver's body. Claws tore at it. Yet every attack seemed to give it strength. The Reaver moved faster, faster than any dragon could follow. Young dragons were thrown aside like leaves in a storm. Caleb gripped his training blade. His lungs burned from yesterday's training, his arms ached. But he knew he could not wait. He would not let dragons fall while he stood back. He studied the Reaver. It moved in patterns, predictable in some ways, but faster than any human could normally follow. Caleb remembered Eldros' words, "You must read the rhythm. Adapt. Use your mind." He took a deep breath, centered himself, and stepped forward. The Reaver struck first. Caleb ducked under a claw, rolled across the stone, and leapt to the side. Sparks flew where his blade scraped the platform. He moved like a shadow, faster than thought, striking at the Reaver's legs, pushing its momentum against itself. The dragons watched, astonished. One young dragon muttered, "He moves like one of us but better. He thinks faster than the fire." Caleb darted between attacks, learning the Reaver's rhythm. It struck with claws, with body, with energy pulses. Caleb dodged, rolled, and struck. Every move had a purpose. Every step used the enemy's speed against it. He was small, human, and yet unstoppable because he could adapt. Another Reaver appeared, landing on the edge of the platform. Caleb did not falter. He shifted his focus, moving between the two creatures like water. His blade struck the first Reaver's limb, then the second. Sparks and light danced across the platform. Heat and cold collided. The dragons roared with effort, but Caleb's movements created openings for them to strike more effectively. "Keep going." Eldros roared. "Watch the rhythm. Use your mind." Caleb nodded. He was tired, but his focus sharpened. He noticed the pattern. The Reavers always attacked after feeding on heat or movement. He baited them, letting one strike and then dodging at the perfect moment. His strikes were precise, hitting the places that made the creatures stumble. The dragons began to see something they had never believed possible. A human could fight like a dragon. Not with wings or claws, but with mind, skill, and courage. They adjusted their attacks to Caleb's movements, striking where he created openings. Hours passed. Caleb moved like a living shadow, weaving between attacks. His blade flashed. He jumped, rolled, and used the Reaver's own speed against them. One by one, the creatures fell into the lava or collapsed from Caleb's precise strikes. Finally, the last Reaver turned to Caleb, its glowing red lines pulsing faster than ever. It lunged, faster than any movement Caleb had faced before. His mind raced. He ducked, rolled under, and came up behind it. With one final strike, he hit the stone near its base. The vibration threw the creature into the lava. Silence fell. The lava hissed. Smoke and heat swirled around the citadel. The dragons hovered, wings tired, scales scorched, breathing heavily. Caleb stood, chest heaving, sweat dripping but alive. Eldros lowered his massive head, smoke curling from his nostrils. "You have done what we could not," he said. "You fought with speed, mind, and courage. You have taught us a lesson we did not expect. that humans can fight alongside dragons, even against the impossible. Caleb's chest rose and fell. He did not smile. He only nodded. He knew this was only the beginning. The world outside the citadel would bring more dangers. But for the first time, humans and dragons had fought together and survived. The young dragons gathered around Caleb, eyes wide with awe. One whispered, "He's not just a human, he's a warrior." Caleb looked at the horizon, where the rift had closed but left a scar in the sky. He knew the Void Reavers might return. He knew bigger threats were coming. But he also knew something else. Humans could stand, fight, and survive where dragons alone might fail. Eldros studied him carefully, golden eyes full of respect. "You are ready for the next stage," he said. "Not only combat but leadership. The battlefield is not just about skill. It is about making decisions, guiding others, and surviving against impossible odds. Only then will you understand what it truly means to be the first human dragon warrior." Caleb tightened his grip on his blade. He was tired, aching, and bruised. But he felt alive, stronger than ever. He had survived fire, breath, combat, and the impossible Reavers. He had proven that humans could be more than dragons had believed. And as the sun rose over the citadel, casting light on the blackened stones and molten lava, Caleb knew one thing: the true battle was just beginning. Humans were no longer fragile. Humans were no longer weak. Humans could fight, and even dragons could see it. The battlefield was quiet now. The rift that had brought the Void Reavers was gone, but its scars remained. Black smoke curled from the burned stones, and the lava pits hissed in the morning sun. Dragons circled above, tired and wounded, their wings tattered but alive. Caleb Thorne stood at the center of the citadel, his chest heaving, his training blade in hand. He had fought, dodged, and survived when dragons alone could not. Eldros Flame Ward descended beside him, landing with a ground-shaking thud. His bronze scales were scorched, his wings stiff, but his eyes shone golden and proud. "You have done what none have ever done," Eldros said. "You fought beside dragons, guided them, and defeated the impossible. You are not just a warrior, you are a leader." Caleb wiped sweat from his brow. He felt every ache in his body. His arms burned, his legs shook, but his spirit was stronger than ever. "I did what I had to do," he said simply. "I fought because I could not let anyone fall. Humans or dragons." Eldros studied him. "You fought with skill, speed, and courage. But more importantly, you fought with something we dragons often forget: a human mind. Clever, adaptive, unpredictable. That is what saved us today." The young dragons gathered around Caleb, eyes wide with admiration. Some bowed their heads. Others nudged each other in disbelief. "He's not like us," one whispered. "He's more than what we thought humans could be." Caleb looked around. The citadel was damaged. Stones were cracked, fire scars blackened the walls, and ash floated in the wind. But it was standing. And he knew that humans and dragons had survived together. For the first time in history, they had fought as equals. Eldros stepped closer. "Tell me, human," he said quietly, smoke drifting from his nostrils. "How did you master the ancient combat arts when dragons thought it impossible?" Caleb opened the small metal case he had carried for years. Inside was his old training blade, scratched and worn. He held it carefully, almost reverently. "It wasn't about strength or fire," he said. "It was about focus, patience, and determination. Humans survive by adapting, by learning, and by refusing to give up. The arts are not only dragon-born, they are survival-born. And humans have survived longer than any dragon could imagine." Eldros nodded slowly. He lowered his massive head, almost touching Caleb's shoulder. "Then it seems, the ancient arts have a new master." Caleb shook his head. "I am not the master. I am the first. There are more humans who can learn this. More humans who can fight alongside dragons. The arts are bigger than me." A young dragon stepped forward, its scales bright under the sun. "Will you teach us? Will you teach humans?" Caleb smiled faintly. "Yes. I will teach anyone who is willing to work, to endure, and to fight. Humans and dragons can learn from each other. We can protect each other. We can face any threat together." The dragons murmured among themselves. Some were shocked. Some were hopeful. Some were inspired. They had seen the impossible. They had watched a human endure heat, pain, combat, and strategy and survive. Caleb had shown them that dragons were not the only creatures capable of greatness. As the sun climbed higher, Caleb walked through the citadel. He inspected the damage, but he also looked at the young dragons practicing, now eager to learn. He saw humans arriving from other worlds, drawn by the news of his victory. They were small, fragile, untrained, but they looked at him with hope and courage. Caleb remembered his first day standing on the platform above the lava, facing dragons who laughed at him. He had been scared. He had been small. But he had not given up. He had endured, learned, and adapted. And now humans could walk alongside dragons not as weaklings but as warriors. Eldros spoke again, his voice deep and rumbling. You have changed everything, Caleb. Humans are no longer weak. They are no longer fragile. They can fight. They can lead. They can survive the impossible. Caleb nodded, gripping his blade. And this is only the beginning. The world is bigger than this citadel. Threats will come. Battles will come. But humans will be ready. We have learned and we will continue to learn. The dragons spread their wings, soaring above him. Some circled, others roared in approval. Caleb raised his hand slightly, acknowledging their respect. He had earned it not through fire or size, but through courage, determination, and the human heart. In that moment, the citadel no longer felt like a place for dragons alone. It was a place for humans too. A place where the impossible could happen. A place where humans could stand, fight, and survive beside the mightiest creatures in the galaxy. Caleb looked out at the horizon, the sun glinting off his blade, and smiled faintly. This is just the start, he said quietly to himself. The first human dragon warrior, but not the last. Humanity has found its place among dragons. And we will not be forgotten. The dragons watched him, and for the first time in history, they understood that humanity had earned its place in the ancient arts. Not because of fire or wings but because humans had something dragons could not give themselves: unbreakable will. And with that, Caleb Thorne, the first human dragon warrior, turned toward the training grounds, ready to teach, ready to fight, and ready to lead a new era of humans and dragons together.